This is the I Love Success podcast. I'm Peter Jabrukovsky, and I have made a vow to myself to help as many people as possible to achieve their dreams. Let's get started. Hey, and welcome back to the I Love Success podcast. In today's episode, I will meet with Sharran Srivatsaa, an incredible entrepreneur. He recently grew Teles Properties from $300 million to $3.2 billion in 5 years, leading to its acquisition by Douglas Elliman. He's an incredible human being, an entrepreneur, and also the founder of the 5 a.m. club. He wakes up every morning at 5 a.m. and does a call where he inspires more than 1,700 people from all over the world. So this is just a nugget of all he has done, and this episode is going to be incredible. So stay tuned and let's do this. Welcome, Sharran.
Peter, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be here with you today because we just met a couple of minutes ago, and that energy level that you brought in, I'm excited, so let's have some fun.
Sounds great.
Sharran, who are you really as a person?
It's hard to break down. I spent a lot of time, especially after the sale of our company, which was just about 6 months ago, thinking about that very question, right? And if you think about it, it's really hard to come up with an answer for something like that, right? And I came up with 3 things. Yeah. And if I could find these 3 areas of my life that I could really build and grow, that I could do well. And everything is built around this, which is people always talk about legacy. I want to leave a legacy. I want to create this legacy. When I die, I want to have this amazing thing stay on after me, right? I'm going to sound really unpopular when I say this, but I don't care about my legacy right now. I think it's time for all of us to live legendary right now. So I was thinking, why are all of us working on something that we're never going to see? Yes, I get that, I understand that, but can I live legendary right now? Can I create everything right now? So I always think I think everything starts with personal growth. Everything that we do is about personal growth. If we can get better, if I know what I know now, like 10 years ago, I would be on a completely different trajectory, right? So number one, who am I? I really think about how can I develop and build my personal growth every day. I want to be this personal growth engine. Number two, I have a responsibility with my family. Everyone talks about family, but I feel like I have a responsibility. I got 2 little children and my wife, and it's my responsibility, not just an opportunity, it's my responsibility, and live legendary with them, right? So I'm doing a better job of spending more time with them, being more present with them. And the third is, everyone talks about, I love your big mission, which is, 10 million people. That is so great for me. In this next journey, I want to have something that is accomplishable in pockets. So in our new business, I want to impact 1 million people in 5 years. Very, very specific, very, very small group. And I want small, attainable professional goals that I can stack on top of each other. So to me, it's personal growth that drives everything. My responsibility is my family, and just small professional goals that I can drive forward.
That's great. And we're going to talk much more about this because this is what you're really good at, obviously. But let's just go back, because I know there was a moment in your life early in India. I think you were 13 or 14, right? When you're sitting with your dad and he's like, you got to get good at tennis. Can you just walk us through that story? What happened there?
Yeah, so every time I think about that story, it gives me goosebumps, right? So I was the only child to great parents. They're fantastic parents, but they were middle class parents trying to make it on themselves, entrepreneurs. And my dad realized that I was very mediocre in what I was doing there. The system of education and accomplishment was not tied to who I was. So I was a B+ student, so I was decent. It was not going to get me anywhere. I was tone deaf, so I had no musical skills. I mean, I didn't really have any other skills per se. But my dad, I believe, saw like this fire in me that no one else saw. And he took a responsibility for himself. He's like, this is not the right environment for you. We need to do whatever it takes to get you out. And maybe sports is the way. It can't be a team sport because you're not going to get recognized that way. We need to find an individual sport. You're not strong like Peter. You're not going to do any karate or jiu-jitsu. So what can you do? And we were sitting on a park bench in front of 2 tennis courts. And he's like, hey, can you try it out? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, you need to just get good enough so you can get out of the country, so someone can recognize that you have skills that can be valuable elsewhere. So he's like, you don't have to win any trophies. You don't have to go pro. You just have to be good enough to get out of the country. And there was a lot of pressure as for a 13-year-old, right? So that day, everything changed. Academics became secondary. I woke up in the morning, trained. I went to school. I came back. I played tennis all afternoon. The only singular goal was getting good enough to get a ticket, to get a passport, to get recognized, to get out of the country. And that's what happened.
And was it always America that was like?
Actually, no. It was kind of anywhere. So I looked at the UK, I looked at London, and I looked at the US, looked at Canada and Australia. But the US was my number one choice. So actually, the interesting part, I'll tell you the story, which I've never shared with anybody, is in India, when you're trying to apply for a visa to come to the United States, if you're an immigrant listening to the podcast, you'll realize this. It was very hard to get a visa to come to the United States. We actually had to sleep on the sidewalk overnight to get an appointment to get in the embassy. So my father and I slept on the sidewalk overnight in the middle of a city, right? And so it was, and I remember that. And the first time I applied for a visa to come to the States, I was denied for whatever reason. And you only get 2 shots to apply for it in a 1-year period. So, I mean, I think my mom and dad prayed hours a day, every day, because that was a dream. And if I hadn't gotten in, I would have gone to Australia or somewhere else, but the US was the first choice because I had some aunts and uncles who lived here, and that was the support system, if you will. Yeah. But yeah, sleeping on the sidewalk, just trying to get an appointment to get in the embassy to get a visa.
And you came to the US by yourself?
Yeah, just me.
How old were you then?
So I left home when I was 13 to go play on the pro tennis tour. I played on the tennis tour for 24 to 36 months. I came to the US when I was 15 and a half, 16, yeah.
Wow, so I think something that we need to talk about is like a lot of kids might have that dream to go to the US or move to another country because you're from a humble beginnings. But it must be hard too, right? It's not just once you arrive, it's like, shit, now I'm just lonely, right?
Yeah.
How did that feel? Like a young kid, okay, my parents said this is good for me. Did you want to go home or?
I remember the first night I was homesick. I cried. I'd say it was equal parts excitement and just fear. I had no support system. I had nothing. It was, you've heard the story before. I'll tell the story, which is my parents sold almost everything that they had, and they gave me one check, which was to pay for a full year of college, right? Yeah. And a lot of people don't have that. Like I got that. I was very grateful for that. So I take my check first day of college, and I go deposit it into the accounting department of the university, right? And they say, "Oh my gosh, this is great," but it's an international check, so it's not going to clear for 1 to 2 weeks. And I was like, "That's all." I was like, "Wait a minute." So I have a place to live, which is great. I don't have pillows, sheets, nothing, because I have no money to buy anything, and I have no money for food. I'm waiting for a check to clear, right? I think that's at that moment is when fear really set in. It's like, I really hope my check clears. What am I going to eat for the next 10 to 14 days? And I'd never been in a position where you didn't have food. Yeah. And my mom listening to this would probably be crying right now, right? Yeah. Because that's not.
You didn't tell her.
No, I didn't tell her until this year. Yeah. And she had no idea. And she didn't. What was worse was, I didn't have food for a couple of days, and I saw a bunch of people finishing a party and throw a lot of this food into a dumpster. And so I just waited till it was dark because I was really embarrassed. I didn't want my friends to see me. Yeah. And when it was dark, I jumped in the dumpster, I grabbed the food. I mean, it was fully packaged, they just thrown it out. And I got enough food for like a couple of days, and I did that 2, 3, 4 days over. And a funny thing happened where I saw two guys throw these 2 Subway sandwich bags in this dumpster. I waited till the night. I jump in the dumpster. I grab the Subway sandwich bags. I see this big box of Pop-Tarts. I grab the Pop-Tarts. Right then something else grabs the Pop-Tarts. And I see these 2 glowing eyes, and it was like a raccoon. And the raccoon like slaps me with his hand. I start to bleed. I punch the raccoon back. I grab the box of Pop-Tarts. I grab the Subway sandwich, and I jump out of the dumpster and I run to health services. I get a tetanus shot so I don't. But I mean, I was fighting for food in a dumpster, right? And I'm not saying this because, hey, look at me, I came from. No, my parents wrote a check for the entire worth of, but I didn't have any courage to go back to them to ask for more. Yeah. And like I was scared. Yeah. But once that happens, once you know that you can live, you can sleep without blankets and pillows, without heat. You don't have money to even wash your clothes because you don't have any money. You don't have money for food, and you can make it. You can make it 14 days. That's pretty amazing, and that made me believe that, hey, I can make it work. Yeah.
And your parents, are they still in India?
Yeah, my parents still live in India.
Yeah, and they were entrepreneurs, right? So what did you learn from them?
So my dad. You ask great questions because I've shared a lot about my parents, but my mom and dad are very different people. So my dad is like the CEO, hustler, rainmaker, sales guy. And my mom is like the COO, operations, like the warmth, the friendliness, the books, the finance. And so my mom keeps the company together and my dad goes and hunts, right? And here's one thing that I learned from my dad, which I do until even today. Every night my dad would sit down and he would write out the 10 most important things for him to do tomorrow. He would sit down and he would not go to bed. And he had the same notebook. He would sit in the same chair. He would sit down, he would pray, and then he would write. He'd be like, tomorrow, he'd write tomorrow's date today, right? Because it was amazing. He would commit to doing something tomorrow. Can you imagine if you and I, that's amazing. We lose our willpower walking down the street and we want to get an ice cream. Like we lose our willpower today. He's committing to tomorrow and he says, these are the 10 things that I'm going to do. And he would write out the 10 things, put his pen down, and then he would go to bed and he would wake up in the morning and he would execute on those 10 things. And that was like the biggest life lesson for me, saying I could commit. So even today, when I go to bed at night, I don't do what he does, but I think about what I get ready to do tomorrow. Excitement to come see you was last night. I'm like, hey, I'm going to drive. I'm going to go hang out with Peter. He's talked to all these entrepreneurs. What can I learn from that? But that was amazing. But for my mom, probably the biggest lesson I learned was, regardless of how things break down, it always pays to be kind. My mom's a really, really kind person. And in today's world, it's really easy for you and me to just get mad at people, right? Oh my gosh, she didn't respond to me. He didn't respond to me. How can he be rude? Her email was rude. The voicemail was rude. You were late to a meeting. It's very easy in today's world to get mad at everything. And my mom just would find the kindest way to write an email back, to write a letter back, to make the call back. She was just kind all the time. And everybody loves my mom, right? She's one of those people, everybody loves my mom. But there's a reason, right? She's just kind all the time. And there are times now when you're an entrepreneur, you just struggle. Like you want your way and you want to bulldoze and get your way, but then you realize that it's important to be kind. And I think my dad's hustle and my mom's kindness I saw every single day. And that really, I think, I'm 50% hustle, 50% kind, but sometimes the wrong thing comes out.
Yeah. Right? I love that. I love what you were saying. And I can relate to that. My parents had a tobacco shop in Sweden for more than 20 years. And I used to work there since I was a kid. And it's so right. My dad was that hustler and my mom kept everything together with kindness. And I learned from both to be that goal-oriented go-getter, but also to be kind, because kindness is magic.
Yeah.
And nobody likes an asshole, right?
Yeah. There's I wrote these things, after we sold our business, I just sat down for a week and I just started writing the lessons that I learned. More for me. I said, you know what? We've gone on this amazing journey. We've grown a business 10x. Yeah. Most people have never done that. We were 4 consecutive times on the Inc. 500 list. most people try to get on once. There's got to be these lessons that I've learned, that I've just glossed over. So I just wanted to write them down so that I would hold on to them. It was a very personal thing because I had the time after the sale. And my friends and my mentors told me, hey, so I came up with like 37 lessons, and my friends told me, you should publish this. Whether people read it or not, you putting it out there is you committing to this as how you think about your life. And one of them is this, just don't be an asshole. You will always lose. At some point in time, the asshole will lose. And so there's no reason to do that. And I will tell you, even 10 years ago, Peter, to now, I'm much kinder now than I was 10 years ago. I was a person that knows me from 10 years ago will not recognize me today on the person that I am. And that's good. That means I've grown, right? And
I think it's all about pressure, and we're going to talk about, I've written down I read that article yesterday, so there's some points that I actually want to emphasize a little bit more, and they can read it. We're going to put the link as well. But the thing that I'm a little bit curious is, did you have a lot of pressure on yourself? Because I feel like I was, as an athlete, I was that, I didn't care. I just wanted to win. But why? When I think about it, it's like, where does this pressure to be good come from?
Yeah.
Did you feel that on your shoulder, like that you had to be successful?
No, I didn't feel that. So two questions. Great question. The struggle is where the pressure comes from a lot of different places, right? So in our growth, we realized that we had to grow. So some people are like, I want to build a $3.2 billion business. That's what some people think. And when we thought about it, and I've been very public about this, is that for it to get exciting for me and my partners and for the business that we built, our 800 plus people, we had to grow. And only then did the economics start to make sense. And people always talk about money, et cetera. And I really think that, people say money, religion, you shouldn't talk about. I don't care about that. Money is a vehicle to have impact. Like if you don't, I talk about money with my son. I bet money with my son. I want money to be a normal conversation because people just don't talk about money. And I think it's an instrument to success, right? It's a vehicle. And so we had to create that much. And so that pressure, at Teles came from, there was no other way.
I love that. And that's great. I think, but if we look back on your life before Teles, did you have pressure on yourself, or were you always that
No, I always wanted to, grow. I knew there was more, and I never knew how to get it. And maybe you'll have a comment on this. If you ask me today, the one thing, people always talk about, hey, what is the one thing, right? One thing you could have done differently, one thing, I will tell you the one thing right now, if you told me what is the one thing you could have done differently earlier in your life, I would say I would get a coach or a mentor. One thing. I putzed around trying to figure out what I was good at, how I could make it work, how I could make it better, until who's my business partner today, he became my mentor about 18, 19 years ago. He was my attorney first, and he kind of helped me through our first business, and he became my mentor, and he's like a father to me today. He just nudged me on the right path. He showed me what was possible. And I think a lot of people just have so much untapped potential that I see you, and I can't wait for all the amazing things you're going to do. I actually think I believe in you more than you believe in you, right? Because I can see, people see that, right? That's a gift for me. I can see that. But no, I couldn't see that in myself. And I just wish that I had today I spend so much money invest on coaching, mentoring for myself. Someone else is adding some amazing perspective. And so I never felt the pressure. I actually feel disappointment, right? More as I wish I had this sooner. And I could have had so much more. By this today, I could have had so much more impact if someone had just given me a little lift, guided me along the path a little better. Which is why what you're doing on the show is so amazing, because someone driving in their car right now is listening to this and saying, wow, I was at a seminar, maybe I should go get a coach that can change the trajectory of my life. Your 10 million person vision, that's how it's going to come to be, right? Someone's going to be driving on the Autobahn, listening to your stuff, and stuff's going to change for them. And that's an impact that you've had. So that's awesome.
Thank you for that. And I think it's so important to have people around you. I know as an athlete, I couldn't have done anything that I have done without people around me. And sometimes we forget that in everyday life when it comes to money. Okay, when it comes to business, when it comes to career, we don't have mentors. And the question I think a lot of people have, it's great to have, it's easy for Sharran. He built this big company and now he has these mentors that he can pay. But if a regular person want to do impact in their life, how do they get a mentor?
Yeah, so great question. I think there are two ways. So I'll give you the easy way and the hard way. The easy way is, I think what happens to people right now and today is they're stuck in the mentors that are on swipes. Here's what I mean. You watch a video, you listen to a video about Jim Rohn, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool, you swipe. Listen to a Brian Tracy, you swipe. Listen to a Grant Cardone, you swipe. Listen to a Tony Robbins, you swipe. Like, everyone's saying different things. You're like, oh, that's cool. So you have this swipe, but you don't do anything with it, right? So the easiest way I would say is pick one person, dead or alive, and just completely model their lives. Just model everything. Napoleon Hill went and interviewed all these people. He woke up at 4:55 every morning. This was his morning routine. Just model the whole thing, because you will instantly see change, because that person did it, was successful, and wrote about it. Like, that's amazing. You've written 4 books. How hard? I mean, people can't write an email correctly. You wrote 4 books. Like, you thought about how much time went into that, right? Like, you're a master in that subject. So I'd say the easy way, whatever I tell people that I mentor and coach, I just say, listen, pick a person that you like. You like the Tony Robbins cadence, you got to have a personal growth person. Pick one. And then listen to everything. Like, forget everybody else. Just listen to one person, listen to everything that they do, consume them, and pick a time frame. For a year, I'm only going to listen to Peter. Great. Good. Everything. Like, totally soak it in, because then what they will start to see is the patterns. They'll start to see the language patterns of what they use, how they frame sentences, how they think about the world. You'll see like how they structure their lives, structure their thoughts. That's what you want to learn, right? I think that's where the good stuff comes. I think that's the easy way, but it takes a little bit of commitment. The hard way is what I went through. The hard way is I was at a conference and I saw this lady speaking. And I will tell you, Peter, I was sitting there and I was taking notes and I didn't say a word. I wrote down every word she said. I would have a thought and I'd be writing down. I would have a thought and be like, oh yeah, I will have a question. And as I'm writing, she would answer that question. I was like, this is insane. Whatever I'm thinking, she's answering live and I'm in the audience, right? Yeah. So I talked to my dad about it. I said, Dad, I was describing this amazing experience that I'm having. My dad's like, so why don't you work with her? I'm like, Dad, I can't afford it. And I'm like, I'm 23, like 24, like how can I afford this? And he says, pick a number that is painful. I said, what do you mean? He's like, just pick a number that is painful, like a dollar amount. I said, okay. He goes, write an email to her that says, so let's use I won't talk about that number. Let's use the number as $5,000, right? He says, write an email to her that says this: Dear so-and-so, I saw you speak and those 30 minutes changed my life. I want, as a symbol of my seriousness, I want to offer you a fee of $5,000. And all I ask is that when I have questions over the next 12 months and I email you, you just prioritize me on a response. No meeting time, no coffee, no telephone time, nothing. When I write you an email, just prioritize me as a response, because this is my symbolism of my seriousness. Please let me know where I can send the check. She writes back saying, is this a joke? I was like, absolutely not. And so she's like, write it up, you're in. So I wrote up in a contract, I signed it, she signed it, I wired her money, and I would just email her questions, and she would just email me back answers. And more my questions got complex. She'd be like, oh, this is complex, we should get on the phone. And she would talk to me, and then she's like, hey, I'm gonna be in Laguna Beach. She would meet with me. But it started that way. I bought myself a relationship, but that was the only way to show it was a symbolism of seriousness. And I think unless, there's a great quote which says, if you don't pay attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sean Stevenson, who I had on the podcast, he said that you have to pay attention.
That's exactly it, right? And now after hearing that, I don't mind. I'm happy to pay, because it also makes me, I'm like, oh my gosh, I wrote a check for this. Like, I should show up and do the work. 100%.
And I think, like, when we're talking about here, getting a mentor and all of those things, it's all about not expecting so quick results and an answer to everything. I know as a karate guy, my father was my sensei, you know, but he was that old school guy. We were training. He didn't give me pointers on every little thing. Some things you have to discover by doing it, right? And I think people that are listening, they have to realize too, we have to go through trial and error, but with a mentor, they can point you in the right direction. You still have to do the work, but don't dump them so easy, so quick. Don't just swipe to the next one, because you won't get anything. And I think that's the whole day and age. Like, we're talking about books. I don't know if you wrote this. I've been reading so much. Like, a lot of people, they read like 100 books. So what? Read 2 books that help change your life. And those things are, I don't know what's going on with the world in that sense. But let's get back to Teles Properties. So the journey is incredible, and we all know it. Like $300 million to $3.2 billion. You sold it to Douglas Elliman. But what I'm curious about is the thought process. What person do you have to be to do this?
You have to have a lot of courage, right? But here's what I learned, that everyone thinks that you need to have courage to do that. But I think it's the other way around. Courage, I think, comes from commitment. And here's what I mean. When we took over and said, hey, here's the path that we need, generally, real estate cycle goes 7 years. We need at least 2 years of buffer. We need to hit a $3 billion mark. So we have to do 10x in 5 years. The math is not complex. It was very simple. And I said, we all have to commit to this, because when you commit, you get courage. Everyone is like, thinks that they will do something when the inspiration strikes. The inspiration strikes when you do something. My favorite quote is, like I have a personal mentoring client who's a CEO of a big company in Atlanta, Georgia. And he's like, I work really well when I'm under pressure, when I have a time deadline. I said, no, you work only when you're under pressure. You only work when you're under, you don't work any other time. And the interesting part is, so the pressure created, the courage created the effort for him. Peter, I'll tell you this, it was a really, while you look back, it's a fairy tale journey, but it was super hard. It was super hard. Growth. The biggest lesson I learned was you can't 10x one part of your life. That was my biggest takeaway in the entire process, where I thought, yes, we've got this number. Yes, we're going to commit. Yes, we'll find the resources, money, people, whatever. Oh, and nothing else in my life should change. I'm just going to work really hard and tell us his work, and it should be great, and everything else in my life is fine. It'll just be that way. But you can't just supercharge one part of your life. Every other aspect of your life has to level up to support that, right? And the first thing that broke down was my health.
What happened?
So I have a digestive system issue. It's autoimmune. It's called ulcerative colitis. And, well, some people think it's ulcerative. No one knows what it is. But it was... because of the stress and the growth and the time invested, it got triggered to the point where I had extreme fatigue. I couldn't work. I couldn't keep food down. I needed IVs 3, 4, 5 days a week because my body wasn't metabolizing any foods. And you realize that you're not Superman. Like, you realize that you can't wake up at 5 a.m., work till 8, take your kids to school, work till 6, give your kids a bath, hang out with your wife, work from 7 to 11, rinse and repeat all. Like, you just can't do that. My biggest learning was you can't 10x one part of your life. So when I realized you just can't do it, I just thought I could just outwork everybody else and make it happen. But then that's when I realized that every other part of your life needs to be strong. My relationship with my wife needs to be strong. My relationship with my kids needs to be strong. So when I go to work, I feel like a solid person. I need to be healthy so I can stay focused the entire day. I need to be eating good food so I can have the right nutrition. The biggest learning was you just can't 10x one part of your life. And that once I got that courage, once I got that that changed everything. So the last 2 years were way easier than the first 3.
Yeah, I think that is so difficult because if we look at people that have excelled in one area, in music, film, or entrepreneurship, a lot of them have not so good relationships. Not all, many have, but
it's hard.
But many are. They had to go through everything just to make this happen. There you are, being so successful. Like, we're trying to redefine success because success is different for everybody,
Correct.
right? But what do you think about that? Like, can you have a balance and also be a great entrepreneur or whatever?
Yeah, I think you can, but I think life comes in seasons, right? And so if you're right now, I'm at a time in my life where between 7 in the morning and 6 in the evening, my children go to school, and so my wife doesn't want me at home, So my season right now is to create impact, grow business, create the professional growth. But I think I don't think there's a balance. I think balance is a tough word. I think you almost have to accept that life comes in seasons, and you have to find a way to integrate it. And so, hey, I'm going to take a break during the holidays and eat whatever I want, and then I'm going to come back and do whatever. We all put undue pressure on ourselves, right? There's an amazing quote. I'll tell you this. I was with Jesse Itzler, the founder of Marquis Jet, etc. And he said this, and I had goosebumps. He said, "Pressure is a privilege." Yeah. And I put my fork down because it made me think of that kid trying to jump in the dumpster, and I was like, "Yeah, pressure is a privilege now, looking back, but when you're in the pressure cooker, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard." So I think, I don't know, balance is. Yeah. I don't know if you experience balance. I think balance is really hard. It is. I think life goes in seasons, and as long as you can manage the seasons, you do well.
But I think it's hard to know when to stop. That's the problem. If you're good at something, if we look at these high achievers, right? Yeah. People are pulling those. Can you do this? Can you do this? Your business is going. How do you just get out? And how can you be so strong mentally? Just like, this is enough. I don't want to do this anymore. You did it. Like, I'm done with Teles. Now I'm going to move on. Yeah. But that is hard.
Yeah. So there's a way, right? It's called singularity of focus, and you have to commit to that. And the way you commit to, so like when I was at Teles, the team, we all had our lanes. And it's very easy as entrepreneurs, we want to do everything. We're like, oh my gosh, I can write the copy better than Peter can, even though that's his lane. Yeah. So we decided our lanes, and we would always swim into other people's lanes, and it would get very messy. Our company run the most beautifully, the most elegantly, the most fun for each one of us running it when we stuck within our lane. Like, my lane was GCI. We call it growth, culture, and innovation. If it didn't touch growth, if it didn't touch culture, if it didn't touch innovation, I hit forward on the email. I do not do it. And even if it breaks, it's not my responsibility. But it's really hard to detach yourself from that, right?
Especially when it's your baby, right?
100%. It's really, really hard to do that. But at some point, you can't do everything. You absolutely can't. And I also think that there's where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? And so if you can wake up in the morning and you have 700 emails and they're asking you 7 little small things, it's like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like, you haven't done anything that day. Yeah. And so even now, so in any business going forward, I know what I'm really, really good at, and I'll do whatever it takes to get the people around me. I have good partners. I'm a good partnership guy. I love working with people. I'm not I need to own 100% of the company. I need to have my say in everything. I need to have my say. I'm a control freak. I get it. But we all are. We're all entrepreneurs that want their say. But I'm good at 3 things, and I only do those 3 things. Yeah. And if I don't do those 3 things, somebody should hold me accountable to it. Yeah. And the faster entrepreneurs listening right now can figure out, hey, what am I good at? And what is one thing what is my one metric? What is my one KPI? So right now we launched a new business, and my team basically told me, hey, Sharran, your job is to get us 4,000 users in 90 days. Yeah. I was like, everything else is irrelevant, because that's how you're going to get your impact of 1 million users in 5 years. And I go, so whatever is on my plate is secondary to getting 4,000 users so I can go have impact. But coming up with that number is really hard. Yeah. Really hard.
It's interesting. let's talk about sales because you're mentioning that now. I know that you learned, what's at Goldman Sachs, you learned to walk around with that earpiece that like always be ready to pitch and talk. So what is sales, and why do you say nothing happens until a sale is made?
Yes, and so this is the fun quote, right? Nothing happens until a sale is made. So if you think about any company anywhere that is building and growing a business, someone is buying something somewhere. Someone has made a decision to buy something, which means money is exchanged, and based on that value, something has to get delivered, right? So I call it the value chain. Until something is sold, no one has a job. Like, nobody needs to do anything. So everybody reverse engineers. Everyone's like, we're gonna build this amazing product. We're gonna create this beautiful website. I get all that. Who's gonna, like, whose life are you gonna benefit? And is someone gonna stroke you a check for it? Is someone gonna give you their credit card number? Can you do a test? Because as soon as I know that someone's gonna write a check, everything changes because now you can build a value chain. Sales is just getting someone to take action on a result that is right for them, morally and ethically. That's all it is. So if I believe that you need to wear this shirt, and I believe it from the bottom of my heart, and I know it's gonna benefit your life, I should do whatever it takes to influence you to buy it. That's, it's all influence, right? But it has to engage you in a positive result for you. The salespeople that you and I don't like are the ones that pitch us stuff that is not going to change our lives in any way, right? And I think that's when you believe in your book, when you believe in your podcast, when you believe in the impact that you want to make, you are selling just by having me here, right? You're selling, and it's not a bad thing. I love salespeople because they have a big goal to create impact. So you sold me by getting me here. To create more impact with you, right? So there's no money involved. I'm doing this because of the relationship. But a sale happened. A sale happened for me to get in my car, drive from Laguna Beach to here. Why? Because you sold me to create impact, and nothing happens until that a sale is made. Yeah, no, you're absolutely true, and I think that is something that we all need to focus more, especially when we build our business, right? We tend to think, okay, I have this beautiful idea, like you said, but is someone gonna buy it? Otherwise, maybe you have to kill your darlings, right? And so how are you gonna get to 4,000 users? Yeah, good question. So there is, I'll tell you something very simple about the product, right? Our product's called Kingston Lane. It is what I realized over the last 7 years was salespeople, specifically real estate salespeople, have to wear a lot of hats. And there's only two reasons why our friend Victor got in the business. Anybody gets in the real estate sales business for two reasons. Number one, they want to have full flexibility on their schedule. Number two, they don't want to have any cap on the income that they make. Not like a salary. If they sell more, they make more. Those are the two reasons that all great salespeople get into business. But the problem is, those are two really sales-focused functions. Once they go sell, get an appointment, or get a listing, or get a contract, now they got to go what we call, you promise the dream, and then you have to service the nightmare. Right? And so they're not, someone that wants freedom with time, and someone that wants uncapped revenue, I'll tell you right now, is really bad at execution. They're not wired to do social media ads. They're not wired to do marketing. They're not wired to get marketing pieces. They're not wired to do the building blocks of the business. So my entire idea was the good salesperson has the 80% done. The last 20% is the execution. Can we provide a platform where they can push a bunch of buttons and get execution? That was the idea. How we're going to get there is everybody's been focusing on the US, which is great. There's a worldwide market of salespeople out there and across industries, and everyone thinks the same thing. I want freedom of time, and I want uncapped revenue. All I want to do is provide a platform where people could push a bunch of buttons and get execution. So we're going to go worldwide to get this, not just in certain markets.
That's cool. And like your job now to get 4,000, is that calling, selling? Is it like marketing it? How is that like? Yeah. What's your strategy?
Yeah, so it's we're not calling anybody, right? There's a lot of social selling. Yeah. So if you get the product and you like it, you're going to talk about it. But what we're doing is we're doing the value add. So it's value add social posts, value add webinars, value add content. We're just doing a content value add play, and then hopefully do some strategic channel partnerships around the world so they can push it into into different markets, but the entry point is a free product, so free sells itself these days.
Yeah.
And so the goal is to, just in our world, there's been a lot of focus on the real estate industry in the U.S. There's been very limited focus around the world, and want to tap into that. And there's been very few products built for the rest of the world as well. So want to build that, but there's no phone calling, but it's all social selling these days. And like we've put, I can give out numbers, but we've been live for 2 days, and all I've done is 2 social posts, and we have hundreds of users. Which is crazy. Like that would never happen 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So the power of having given to this community for the last 8 years is starting to pay off just in goodwill. And I just got to keep giving and being contributing and help people grow.
I think that comes back to what you were talking about, your mom and dad now, that hustler and that kind person.
Yeah.
And all that aligns. And I think you can only see that when you leave your baby. Like now when you left Teles, like you can see what's going to happen with which are the people that are still going to be that people you thought there would be. Like, because I see that all the time. When you leave somewhere, people sometimes they are not the same person because they don't have to report to anyone anymore.
Totally.
And have you felt that?
A little bit, it's a little bit, there was what happened was a really good thing for Teles. We had when we hit our 10x mark, we were tapped out. Like we could not, I did not have the personal wealth, skills, or capabilities to take Teles to the next level. I was tapped out. And knowing that a bigger firm could come in and have a bigger impact on our agents and give them a national, international platform, at the end of the day is a very good thing. Yeah. But all organizations go through transitions. I mean, they bought one of the largest brokerages in California. It's going to take a while for that to happen, but they've had really great success, and it's interesting to see it from afar because it's the DNA and the culture is changing, and I'm like, that's not me anymore. Yeah. But my wife said this, which is you'll appreciate. She said, and so I would say things like, I can't believe they're doing that. Yeah. But then but early on, my wife would say, hey, if you wanted to run it, you shouldn't have sold it, Yeah. And so that got, but
show must go on.
Yeah. So I'm glad we did the right thing. Yeah. We did it with integrity. So it would be tough to have this conversation with you if it was not the right thing that we did. So I'm grateful, and I feel good that it was the right thing to do.
And I have that, like my theory is when you do something, you should get out also before you feel like your drive is gone.
Yeah.
And we see that all the time. I read an article about some interior designer who was talking about, this business is so ruined because of the internet, and it's changing the whole market. Welcome to 2018. If you don't like it, upgrade or change what you're doing. Yeah. Right? We can't complain because then maybe we should be in another place. Yeah. And of course you can complain if you find solutions for it. Right. But just saying that everything is so bad, I mean, everything changes. If you were a taxi driver a couple of years back, business was much better. Yeah. I get it. Maybe a podcast in 2 years would be nothing, right? But that adaptation and like my mindset is like, okay, let's do something really, really well. And let me move on to another platform before my drive is gone. Because I know as an athlete, you can't keep doing it forever. Because then you're gonna be like old, injured, and washed up. And that's the worst thing to be as an athlete, right? You used to be a winner, and now some 18-year-old guy is beating the shit out of you. That's nothing that I wanted to experience. Yeah. But it's a natural curve of life, right? And I prefer to do something really well and then go and do something else with that experience.
Yeah, I think I totally learned that from your wrist right now, which was a lot of times we feel like that was a great distinction you made. Everyone's like, hey, what is the next hot platform? What is the next hot tool? What is the next hot app? And you flipped it, right? You were like, platform's great, but if I've done 300 podcasts and my drive is gone, like I should be done. That's the time for me to go look at something else, not just because the platform's hot. Yeah. So that keeps your authenticity, your genuineness, et cetera on it. So that's a really good takeaway. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, so one thing that I really want to talk to you about is the 5 a.m. club.
Yeah.
Because I wrote the book, just released it, about morning routines based on all my podcast guests. But you're good at this. So please share like your morning routines and why 5 a.m.?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the story of the 5 a.m. club. So during the growth of Teles, I started to get sick. And we did a lot of lab work, just tests and blood tests and all that. And my doctor was just a really great guy. And he's like, listen, it seems to me like your blood work is like you're healthier in the morning than you are in the evening. And I said, sure, whatever. He goes, what if you just were awake more in the morning? What if you just shifted your day up? And I said, what does that mean? He just said, wake up early. I'm like, there's no way.
When did you used to work?
I was like a 6:45, 7 kind of guy.
So pretty early.
Yeah, early. But I would go to bed at like 1 and 2 in the morning. I would get 5 hours of sleep. Wow. So but that would be I would work, after putting the kids down, I would work 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. because nobody would bother me at that time. Yeah. I'd get a sense of accomplishment that I got a lot done and fall asleep, and then I would start all over. So I didn't know how to do this, so I first took the first week and I texted 3 of my friends. And I said, hey, doctor's orders, I need to wake up earlier. So for 1 week, can I call you at 5 a.m.? And it's just the 3 of us. And they said, Sharran, that's weird. What are you going to say in the morning? Like, we're all going to be sleepy. I said, no, it'll be under 5 minutes. I'll have a message for you. I'll keep it interesting. There's going to be humor, but it'll be inspirational, but I'll make it worth your while for 5 minutes. And they said, okay. So I started the first day and I prepared and I rehearsed. So I did the first call and they're like, oh, that was pretty good. I did the next call. I woke up at 5 a.m. the next day and the third day. And to do a call, it was just a conference call, but you need to be like coherent. Like it's not just, you're just rolling out of bed. So after the third day, these guys, 3 people tell me, hey, this is pretty good. Can we invite other people? And so the 3 became 13, the 13 became 30, the 30 became 300. And today we have 1,700 people on the call who wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to listen to a 5-minute call every single day, 7 days a week. And that's how it started. And pretty soon, everybody wanted to get together, like after the first month. So we set up this private Facebook group where people could talk about their interpretations of the call. And Peter, I'll tell you this. The call happens, I hang up. So it's just me, I hit mute all, I share a message. I hang up, so it's 5 a.m. Pacific time every weekday, or every day. The Facebook group just lights up. Someone says, oh my gosh, like that's a story that I just needed to hear that today, that just changed my life. Oh, I really needed that. There's one guy that actually used the call as an anchor to lose 150 pounds because that was his way to say, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna do the call, that's gonna be my routine to go to the gym. So he used the call as an anchor every day. There's stories like, when I get the call has changed my life stories, I don't even understand what that means. Yeah. And I'll tell you this one story that what makes me right now keep coming back to the call every time I wake up and I want to hit snooze that I don't. A lady told me that, I think she lives in Texas somewhere, and she wrote me an email, like a long email, and she's telling me about her son. Her son is 8 or 9 years old, I think. She sent me a picture, and she said that, hey, Sharran, and when, what we do is, I log into the call like 3 minutes prior, right? And I leave the join dings on. So every time someone logs in, it goes ding, 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 ding. It gets annoying after a while, but it's like a ding. And so every time somebody dings, I say, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. So this kid listens to this call every morning, and he has some form of autism or some kind of health issue, or Asperger's or whatever, and he uses the call when I say good morning, and that snaps him out and makes him have a good day. Once I didn't do the call, someone else did the call on my behalf when I was traveling, and somebody else didn't do the good morning cadence that I did, and it didn't snap on. He had a terrible day. Wow. So she tells me, she's like, my son was so sad that you're not on the call. He was not himself. I had to stay home with him. What you do, you have no idea. And so now I feel responsibility. Like I got to show up and say, I at least have to say good morning for 3 minutes to get him out. But I realize that different people use that as a trigger. So we have 1,700 people on the call right now, amazing Facebook community, significant transformations. I've made it a commitment for my life that I'm going to wake up. So I wake up at 4:45 every morning, chug a big glass of water because our bodies get dehydrated during the night, is what my body at least. And then I don't have no message planned. It's whatever's inspiring. I tell a story or whatever. It's under 5 minutes, and we do the call, and that kicks off the morning. Like that has been apart from if you took away all the accomplishments in my life, right now we've done over 600 calls, all record. I have them all recorded, like not shared with anybody. I have 600 of these calls, and it is probably, I would say, my biggest accomplishment in my life, because I've never done anything that consistently every morning with contribution. So
it's incredible. And like, how many hours of sleep do you get?
I go to bed. I try to go to bed at 10.
Oh, that's good.
And people don't realize that their morning. To me, people don't realize that their morning routines start the night before.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way you could just like start waking up at 5 a.m. You gotta fix the night before. And I've realized that because of my health, there are 3 things that go into like sleeping well. Sleep is super important, right? You need to have good routines and rituals. You need to have good nutrition. And if you need supplements, you need supplements. But whatever, I take herbs, whatever. But there's very specific routine. I do a brain dump. I set up my schedule for the next day. I read. I get in bed. I check a little social media. As soon as the timer hits, I'm in bed. And your body starts to appreciate that, and that's the routine. And that's, if I went to bed at 2, I can't wake up at 4:45.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, but you've got to wake. The greatest thing that you can do is give yourself an anchor at night, an anchor in the morning. There's a sleep alarm and there is a wake up alarm. You can't just run it on one timer in your life. You got to run it on 2.
I think it's all like what you have done with this 5 a.m. club and that community is something that you even said in your own article. Transformation doesn't happen in isolation, right? We need accountability.
Right.
And now it's accountability. It's reversed, right? You wanted to help other people, but now you're helping yourself as well. And I think sometimes we lose that because we try, like when you have a small business, it's hard to, because you want to do everything. You don't know who to reach out to. And then you find these groups of people that are all human beings that want to have a good life.
Yeah.
And I love that you say that this is one of your biggest accomplishments, because you've done a lot. And why do you think this is so important to you?
First, I don't think I'd be healthy and alive right now without it. So it's keeping me here, which is a really good thing. The second thing is, this is a phrase that comes to mind, is routines drive results. Yeah. Everyone thinks that you just show up and one day you're Kobe Bryant, one day you're Michael Jordan. You have no idea how much these guys put in the work. And it is not about working hard. Like, I realize this, Peter, that everyone talks about working hard, and then now the cool thing is, you need to work smart. Like, come on. Like, what the heck does that mean? Like, what is work smart? Like, you delegate everything, you're out. I don't know what work smart means. Yeah. I mean, I want to work my face off. Yeah. I do. Like, I get significant courage and enrichment when I put in a full day's worth of insane work. I go to bed tired. I feel great about myself. But the best things that have happened in my life have happened because of the routines and the consistency. The 5 minutes a day for 600 days in a row. I'm sorry, you do anything for 5 minutes a day. You do bicep curls for 5 minutes a day for 600 days in a row. You're gonna have Arnold Schwarzenegger biceps. It's a work for real, right? I have never done. There's not one thing that I've done in my life, not one thing that I've done with that level of consistency, and that just proved to me that I can. I can do something even if it's 5 minutes a day. And so now when you tell me that I need a new routine, or that I need to put a new habit in my life, or that when I come home I need to put my phone away, whatever it may be, it has created this confidence of belief that I can do it, right? And all we want is, if I can up your confidence right now, you instantly become a better person. And I think what it did is just gave me that, if you and I can give the gift of confidence to somebody right now, that is the greatest gift that we can give them. Like my son, if I can give him the gift of confidence, he just wakes up, he does better. And I think doing those calls every single morning just changed my life. And the funny part is, I don't prep anymore. I can do a 5-minute call at any point, at anywhere, because your life is just filled with experiences that you can share, right? And I think that gets really exciting.
That's good. You have to be very confident and comfortable to be able to do that, right? Yeah. It's like, I talk a lot about success, and for many people it comes down to attraction, right? You wanna have a good relationship, and we see those naturals, right? They don't plan anything. They go up to a girl, talk, they get the number. It's so easy, right? Yeah. And this is when you are comfortable in your own skin, and then you see they read everything and it doesn't work anyways, right? So it's so funny. And talking about routines, I just want to share two things that I've learned. And one thing that I do every morning is that on a post-it note, I write down 3 things that are going to move my business and life forward. And I do one thing as fast as possible after that. So whatever happens in my life, I know that after a year, I've done 1,000 small steps to my dream. And I know I'm going to stick around in this world. Yeah. So in 10 years, I'm going to do 10,000 small things. And I'm not the most talented or brightest kid in the box. But I know if I do 10,000 things, something's going to happen. Yeah. And another thing, I met a guy called Muslim Bashturk, a world champion in karate. And one thing with him that I really love was everybody on a high level athlete nowadays train twice a day, basically. You rest 1 or 2 days a week. But how can you differentiate yourself when everybody's doing that? Yeah. Or in the real estate business, every agent does this and this. But what he did that I really like, he chose 2 techniques that after every practice, he did for 10 more minutes. Every practice. And then, like, if you do that for 10 years, when you're in a world championship final, it's so ingrained in your body that you just win. Yeah. And why doesn't everybody do that? It's so easy, right? Yeah. But why don't we do it?
Yeah, and there's only 2 reasons for that. I think it's not having someone to model. So if you had a coach or a mentor, they'd be like, hey, Peter, I know your goal is 10 million people. 10 million people in 10 years means 1 million people a year. It means you need whatever, 300,000 people, every quarter. Yeah. Okay, if that's the case, then you need to touch at least 1,000 people a day, which means you every day when you wake up, you need to grow your Instagram following and you need to post something motivational. I just came up with the breaking down, right? But if you did that, you actually will get there, right? Like, people throw out these big goals, but there's no small steps getting there. So I think the coach or mentor modeling is really important. I'm just a big fan of modeling because to me it is, modeling gives you momentum. I'm not saying, hey, go copy somebody. I'm just saying, start doing what they do and then your originality will come out. You can't just sit and wait for friggin' inspiration. Like, that just doesn't work. I think inspiration comes when you do the work, not to do the work, right? The second thing is, there is no holds barred accountability. And what I mean by that is, if you're my accountability partner and I have to call you every morning, hey, I did work out, I have to tell you that, I may fib a couple of times. Yeah. But if it was my dad, my mentor, and I knew that they would find out and I would let them down, that's the person you need to be accountable to. I don't think 99% of people in this world have any accountability. Yeah. And especially to people that they would feel bad letting down. Yeah. I mean, if you really respected somebody and you were gonna meet them for lunch, like, I guarantee you're early. You do not want to let them down, right? And if they said, Peter, you should do these 3 things, you do it instantly because you do not want to let them down. That's accountability, right? And I think that's what mentors do. And there are a few people in my life that I do not want to let down because I don't have the courage to look them in the eye and say, oh my gosh, like, I didn't do that. And you're right. The success tip I would give everyone is, there's got to be some, in the real estate business or in the sales business, we call it the hour of power. Yeah. The hour of power essentially is just a very conceptual concept that says, hey, I have 1 hour in my day. And I generally tell people it's 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock because 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock is the worst time for people's energy. So if you can create some momentum during that time, it's good. Yeah. For that hour, you're only focusing on growth. That's it. Yeah. There's nothing else. And you're doing it every day. So, hey, I'm going to read for 15 minutes. I'm going to make calls for 15 minutes. I'm going to write a thank you note for 15 minutes. And I'm going to meditate for 15 minutes. That's growth. Whatever. But you do that every day. If you're a salesperson, I'm going to follow up with leads for 15 minutes. I'm going to create new leads for 15 minutes. I'm going to write marketing. I'm going to work on my scripts. Whatever it may be, right? Yeah. But you do that every day and that's your hour of power. I will tell you the number one success indicator, Peter, for people who did well in sales businesses that I've been in is the hour of power. The number one. So if you ask me, if I'm a salesperson, how do I get great? Pick an hour of power, pick a format, and do it every day, and you will win. Yeah. But like you said, the extra 10 minutes after, right? Yeah. It's the 1 hour a day. People don't do that. And that's because they're not accountable to anyone because it's like 1:45 rolls around. They're like, I'll just go get another cup of coffee at Starbucks and I'll walk home. Yeah. And that's really hard. And if you can offer the gift of accountability to people, I can offer the gift of accountability to people, people will really do well.
Yeah, no, I love that. Sharran, I'm curious. You've done so many incredible things. Your journey here started with tennis, and now you're here on this new path with Kingston Lane. You have a beautiful family. You live in Laguna Beach, a place that I truly love. What is your biggest fears?
I struggle, right? I fear I fear often that I'm not going to be good enough. I fear often that I'm going to do something stupid and let my family down. I fear that, someone's going to figure out something about me that I've done in the past that I don't know what it is. I fear that I'm just, I'm still the shy kid sometimes. I fear not being the person other people think I am and that I can be to them. And sometimes that's really hard. But I found a way to get over it. We're all, I'll tell you this, we're all lying if we say that we don't have fears. We are lying. There's no way. There's no unfearful person in this. It does not exist.
I love what you said. Fear doesn't exist on paper.
Correct.
Is that what you want to share with us?
Yeah.
It was so, I was like, this is so incredible. And a lot of my guests, they journal.
Yeah.
So journaling is incredible. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, of course.
Fear, because it's so good.
Yeah, so I'd say, that what I learned was, so a coach taught me this. She taught me this idea of that fear doesn't exist on paper, and I didn't know what that meant. She said, so we were going through a tough business thing, and she says, don't tell me what you're afraid of, just write it down. And she's like, no typing, write it down, because there's a neurobiology connection, right? So I say, I'm afraid that this deal with Peter is going to go south. I'm afraid that, we're going to lose all our money and we have to start over. I'm afraid. She goes, okay. I write it up and then I look at it and I go, well, okay, am I going to really lose all my money? No. Is this going to really go bad with Peter? No, I just talked to him. He's in, I'm in. And so otherwise it just like circles in your head, and it has this negative domino effect. Whenever I get afraid, Peter, I promise you, whenever I get afraid, and I did this morning, because we were launching a bunch of things, I was not afraid, I was nervous. I just, I'll be driving, I'll pull over to Starbucks, and I'll just write everything that's on my mind. And everybody's journaling is different, but my journaling is just a really vulnerable brain dump. And I write things like, I'm really afraid that this is going to happen. My elbow hurts. Like I write everything, right? Yeah. Everything. That way, when you're done, you're completely out and there's no more fear. And then now you have a chance to reprogram, reframe, rethink, do whatever. I think it's really, really powerful. Sean Stevenson, 3 Foot Giant, Sean Stevenson, right? He taught me to journal after you work out. He said you get the best thoughts when you journal after you work out. And I was like, come on. After I work out, I'm all sweaty. Like I don't want to. He said, as soon as you're done working out, take a notebook, take your journal to where you work out. As soon as you're done working out, like walk outside, sit down and just write everything that comes to your mind. You'll have your best ideas. I'll tell you, I guarantee that guy, I don't know how he does it. My best ideas, my best business ideas, my best breakthroughs, my clearest thinking is all in the journal right after I work out.
Yeah. I think it is like Sean Stevenson's great. He was here like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Incredible guy. But I think when it comes to working out, it's like you feel alive and in touch with nature in some sense. And that's when everything is clear sometimes, right? And that's I never thought of that, but it's incredible. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I think, and so if you can give the gift of journaling to people,
but that's, it's so funny with journaling. No, I don't want to write with a pen.
Yeah.
Come on, we're talking about your life. And this, I can't stress this enough. Guys, if you're watching and listening to this, take your life seriously because days are passing by.
Yeah.
We can, I try as a martial artist. Yeah. I also see myself almost like the old school samurai.
Yeah.
Every day when I wake up, I know this could be my last day. And it might sound harsh, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
I never know. So if I have that in my mind, I need to take my life seriously.
Yeah.
Right? at least with the interactions. If I meet you, this might be the last time I meet you, right? Or my girlfriend, my family, my interactions. Sometimes I meet people that are sloppy. Maybe you will never meet that person again and you hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to create a good life, but you're being sloppy.
Yeah.
It makes me so frustrated because I love people and I want people to have good life and be happy. So what do you have any ideas as far as that? How can we get people to take their life more seriously? In a relaxed way, because we need to have fun too, right?
Totally. So I'll give you a story that I thought I have a lot of I call these artifacts of success, right? If I could, let's say I was an anthropologist or like an FBI agent and I showed up at your house, you were not there, and I just walked around, I looked at your computer, and I just wanted to know who Peter was. Can I figure out your goals, dreams, and aspirations? Right? Can I figure out what motivates you, what inspires you? Not the whole like clinical psychologist, he wears only red and so he's weird. Not that, but really like what inspires you? And my coach was telling me, she goes, I should be able to walk through every piece of your life that you touch on a daily basis, and I should know your hopes, dreams, aspirations, and what you are and who. And I said, what does that mean? She goes, when I open your laptop, your screensaver, like I need to know who you are, what it is. And she goes, you're looking at that every single day. And she said, what is do you write? Great. What is your favorite quote? And I said, wait. She goes, you're thinking about it? You should know that is a driving quote in your life. That is your artifact of success. And I think as soon as we start collecting these artifacts of success, when we start it's a puzzle for us, right? Our life is just a manifestation of all our artifacts. I'm not saying about the trinkets that you have, but it's the goals that you have written down, the journal that you have. Do you have 7 alarms on your phone or do you have 1? Like that's an artifact right there. That's just commitment, right? Do you have 3,000 unread emails or do you have 0? Like it doesn't matter what it is. It's an artifact. No judgment. It is an artifact of success. And anybody that I mentor has to go through with me, I ask them to write what I call their conditions of success. Hey, if your life was perfect, tell me what is true. If my life was perfect, I have a six-pack, I have, an energy like a 21-year-old, I have a great family, I have no worry about income. Great, let's write it all out. Awesome. Is everything in here true if your life is perfect? Awesome. Now tell me which of these are true right now. None. Great. Pick one. Let's work on it. Yeah. Right? What people do, like they want to model and they want to get to the Warren Buffett, but they don't realize that right now Warren Buffett spends 10 hours of his day reading 10Ks and 10Qs. That's what he wants to do. Yeah. But you and I don't want to do that. I never want to do that. But that's not a condition of success for me, right? And so to get people to take action, right, I think you need, it needs to come from within. And that's why, whenever I see people, I'll nudge them not from a mentoring perspective, just see where they are, whether they're open. And if they're open, you just give. Yeah, you just give because you can have an impact in someone's life.
I love that. Conditions of success. I only have 2 more questions for you, Sharran. I had such a great time. I think we can talk for many days. Let's imagine you're 87 years old. You're sitting in a rocking chair or just relaxing. You're in a favorite spot that you love, and you look back on your life and just contemplating. What do you want to see? What do you want to have done? What's the most important things for you?
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in that place. The first thing I see is I have a deep, deep responsibility right now to making sure my family, my children have a path so they can have impact. My parents did wonderful things for me, and I have to pay this forward. I have to create a life for my children where they can go live. They don't need to create legacies. I just want them to go live who they're meant to be, and they'll figure it out, right? So I sit back and I want to be content knowing that I did my part in giving them the right education, the right mentoring, the right love, the right care, the right affection, the right environment for them to grow and succeed, right? So my family and my wife and my children, that's number 1. Number 2, I have I have a lifelong goal of this, and I really would love to have this happen at some point in my life. I want to build something that is a household name. It can be Clorox, it can be Apple, it can be, I just want something that I want to build a household name that is just, that everybody knows, which means if everybody uses what I built, I've changed a ton of lives. So I want to, if I can look back at my career and say like, oh, Sharran was the X guy, and X was something that, I don't know, like a sticker you put on your head. I don't know what it is, but I've always wanted to just build a household name and a big consumer name, and I think that's how you have big impact, right? That's number 2. And
I love that.
And number 3 is I want to look back and say I did one thing, something for so many consecutive days as a habit in my life, maybe the 5 a.m. club or something like that, that no one can ever replicate. Nobody can ever replicate. That was living legendary. As of today, there is nobody in the world that has done a call every single day that I know of, right? And if someone starts, that's cool. I have a 600-day head start. Like you just can't, like you cannot win, right? As long as I don't quit. So if I can look back and say I did 72,000 calls or whatever it may be, that gets pretty exciting quickly. So I want to find something that I can say that I call it the only statement. I want to be able to say I, Sharran Srivatsaa, am the only person in this world that has done this, and that would be something pretty cool for contribution.
Yeah, I love that. And when you were saying that, like doing something every day, I just think about my father. He's been training every day, like for 40, 50 years. And when people say, I can't come to practice, I can't, it's like, train first and then do whatever you need to do. Do the call and then go ahead with your day, right? I love that. And the last question is something that I ask all my guests. We're all about sharing. We shared so much today, but what I want them to do right now is take one step to get closer to their dream. And if you can give your best tool or tips, what they can do right now when they're done listening to this, what would that be?
Yeah. So, gosh, there's so many things that you can do. So I would say, I'll do a personal growth idea, and I'll do something really tactical. Let me start with the tactical one first. I've been doing this for about 8 to 12 months now, and you're gonna think this is really hokey, but there's a way, if you have an iPhone or an Android, because we're tied to our phones, right? To make your phone go grayscale. No color. There's a way to change your phone from color to grayscale that you can run grayscale all day until you need Instagram or whatever. I run my phone in grayscale all day, and what happens is there's red badges, fight or flights in your neurotransmitters in your brain, all the red badges. But if you go grayscale, it's just gray. It will instantly change the way you interact with the one device that is so close to you, that will calm you down, that will make you more present, that will give you a better life. Doing nothing else, just make your phone, just Google grayscale iPhone, and it'll tell you where the setting is, and it will change your life. It will change your life. Right? Instantly. It's amazing. Instantly. That'll be my first tactical.
And you do that every day?
I leave my phone in grayscale. And then there's a feature on the iPhone where you tap the home button 3 times and the color comes on. So when I have to do video or look at pictures, I do that. Then I go back to grayscale. So all the red badges that show up on your phone are not red anymore. They're all gray. So you don't have your brain centers light up, and everything is not an emergency anymore. Yeah, you deal with it in your own time, but as soon as you go to grayscale, it changes everything. So that would be my first tactical tip. My second tip would be, if there was a way right now, if you're listening to this right when you pull over, or do what we call a brain dump. It will completely change your life, where we all walk around, with a really muddled operating system. We've got thoughts and dreams and goals and aspirations and fears all muddled together at the same time. You can't separate it out. Just put it all down on paper. Just write it all out. Nobody's gonna, you can trash the number one reason why people don't journal. Did you know the number one reason why men don't journal? Because they're scared that someone's gonna read their journal. That's crazy. My wife doesn't care. She's like, I don't understand your handwriting. She doesn't care, right? But put everything down, and you will feel a sense of just deep peace and accomplishment. I know it sounds hokey. I know it sounds tacky. No. But just stop whatever you're doing and give yourself a full brain dump, and it'll change your life.
Wow. I love that. Sharran, this has been an incredible time.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for doing this with me. It means the world to me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I know a lot of people have no idea how long it takes to set up and produce and create and put out content and set it all up, and you're giving it all away. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. And thank you for watching and listening to this. I had a wonderful time with Sharran here today. We spoke about life, how to build a business, how to create a better life. And this is so important. I want you to take your life seriously. I want you to do something with your life. Sharran wants it as well. So if you like what we are doing here, share it with your friends and family. Give us 5 stars. Check out Sharran. But most importantly, do something with your life. Thank you and talk soon.